Okay, Rick, you're good to go.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Rick Leaf. I'm Chair of the Master Plan Implementation Committee. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on March 28th, 2025. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. No participation by members of the public will be permitted. And you can find the links to the YouTube or a Zoom on the posted agenda. Okay, having said that, let's just quickly run through attendance tonight. I know John Ray sent me an email that he's attending a function with his son at the high school, so if he's going to join, he's going to join late. Amy Paretsky, are you on mute, Amy?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Millie Milton,
Here.
Leslie Harrison.
She
Okay.
told me she's out of the country.
Okay, that's a good reason not to be here. Uh, Paul Cacciatore,
Here.
Fran Backstrom,
Here.
Gene Kennedy,
Here.
Gene Cahill,
Here.
Rick Leaf is here, John Campbell,
Here.
Jen Tolman,
Here.
and Judy Boyle told me she has a business meeting tonight, so she can't make it. Okay, so we definitely have a quorum. Thank you all for attending tonight. First item on the agenda is to welcome our new member, Paul Cacciatore, representing Parks and Recreation. So welcome to the group, Paul. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Just a quick background on some of you that I don't know. I've lived in town since 2001. I've got two boys that at the end of this year have gone through Algonquin Public Schools, K through 12. I have one that is a junior at UNH and one that's going to be selecting a college soon. No stranger to the coaching ranks in Northborough for youth sports. Um, I coach baseball, I've coached soccer, and currently I hold the position of Algonquin athletic booster president. Um, and I've been on the Park and Recs Commission for four years. And then obviously, John and I have worked together for just a little over a year on the Open Space Committee. And I found myself that this really intrigued me, this particular committee, excuse me. And I enjoy living in Northborough, and it is a long commute to Boston. Those of you that don't know, I work for the Boston Celtics. This is my 30th season. I'm vice president of guest experience and arena operations. So I'll probably ask a lot of operational questions, to be honest. That's where my experiences is, and probably a lot about what the residents' experience is going to be. Um, so I hope I can provide some value to this committee. And thank you very much, Rick, for welcoming.
Okay, well, once again, we're glad you're with us, Paul, and I think you'll find it interesting, the things that we're pursuing here. Okay, so having said that, next item on the agenda is to get an update from Lori on what's going on here with the work on Blake and Pierce Street streetscape improvement projects.
Thanks, Rick. So we are now at the 75% design phase with the beta group. So we did hold a presentation with the select board on Monday night. So I have a couple of slides I wanted to share with you folks to kind of show you where the project is at. So those who attended the meeting on Monday night, please humor me for a couple of minutes here. So of course, I have some good news. And the good news is that we were able to secure the $500,000 grant. It's a little bit less than that. It's like $499,000 from the Complete Streets program. So I did reach out to the Complete Streets program to see if I could change the scope for Blake Street, because originally what I had applied for was 10 LED streetlights, and that was it. But now, because we didn't get the funding at town meeting in the spring, and we were unable to secure the MVP grant, what what we found is that we didn't have any money to do the sidewalk on the west side of Blake Street. So that's shown here in peach. So I did ask Mass DOT if we could have the same amount of money, but instead of using it on 10 LED streetlights, if we could only purchase 4 LED streetlights and then redo the what happened? Sorry. Redo the sidewalk. So it would only be a portion of the sidewalk. So the existing concrete sidewalk on the west side of Blake Street, so that's along the side of 4 West Main Street. That sidewalk's in really good shape, and it already has a vertical granite curb. So we would leave that alone. We wouldn't touch it at all. But we would remove the existing asphalt sidewalk and replace it with a concrete sidewalk with monolithic concrete curb. Unfortunately, we couldn't afford the granite curb. It's very, very pricey. But the next best thing is concrete curb. That's what they have up at Northborough Crossing. It doesn't last as long as the granite curb, but it lasts a lot longer than Cape Cod berm. So it is an improvement. So this is what would be paid for with the Complete Streets grant for Blake Street. And then what would be paid for on Pierce Street would be a new concrete sidewalk where one currently does not exist. That would be on the southern side of Pierce Street. It would also include ADA accessible ramps. There would be a new crosswalk. It's not shown on this version of the plan, but there would be a new crosswalk in this location right here. And there would be a rapid flashing signal to make it safer for pedestrians to cross. So of course there would be the sidewalk. We do have to stay outside of the railroad right of way. So the sidewalk would end here where my arrow is and pick up on the other side over here. Then we would also do a new walkway in the War Memorial Park. We would be able to redo this parking area right here. There would be some drainage structures added. So there would have to be some grading associated with redoing this parking lot. We would do a split rail fence over here. And then the focus group, originally there was proposed to do a walkway through the center of this War Memorial Park, but the focus group decided that they didn't want to do that because of the size, the small size of the park. So we do have bike racks and benches that will be paid for with the Complete Streets grant. The bike rack would go over here. The benches, the change to the walkway design was just made a week ago, so we haven't quite figured out where those benches are going to go. There would be 5 trees added. So 4 trees would be added on this side of the municipal parking lot to provide shade. And then there would be a new tree added where my arrow is to provide shade in this new bump out. So that's pretty much what would be covered by the Complete Streets grant. Does anybody have any questions so far before I go over the CPC application?
I
Haley?
do. Yeah, so you mentioned a crosswalk going across Pierce Street, going from where to where, and what's the need of that crosswalk?
Sure. Actually, I was wrong. The crosswalk's going to go here. And the reason why there's going to be a crosswalk here is because there is an existing asphalt sidewalk that starts right here. So the purpose of the crosswalk is to provide a connection from the new sidewalk on this side of Pierce Street to the existing sidewalk on the other side of the street.
Okay, and that extends along Pierce Street, that sidewalk, or where's that?
Nope, it stops right here. So there's this big gap in the sidewalk network. So there is a sidewalk on Pierce Street
Right,
that's on this side, and it stops right now at the intersection of Blake Street and Pierce Street. So then there's no sidewalk at all until you get to this point right here, closer to the intersection with Hudson Street. So this project will address the gap in the sidewalk network.
mm-hmm,
And if you recall, there is also a gap on Hudson Street.
mm-hmm,
So there was an article on the town meeting warrant to purchase some easements. But unfortunately, the property owners don't want the sidewalk in front of their property. So they were going to fight the town on that. So there's no way to address the gap on Hudson Street. So this would be the key way to connect, particularly the senior housing that
Mhm.
is off of Hudson Street
right,
to the downtown area. Because right now there is no continuous sidewalk that provides that linkage for the seniors who live there.
I understand that. I just don't understand the crosswalk going to what looks like about 15 feet of sidewalk on the other side of Pierce Street.
Well, this sidewalk connects all the way up Hudson Street.
Oh, I guess I didn't, okay,
Yeah, yeah. So
I
this
get it, I get it.
this blue area
Yeah,
notes that there's going to be a new handicap accessible ramp.
okay,
So there's going to be like a new concrete ramp and then a pad, for the visually impaired installed here. So
Okay.
that's why it shows up like that. But there
All
is a sidewalk, a continuous sidewalk that goes after that.
okay, I
But
get
that
it.
was a good question.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just to remind people, the purpose of this part of the project was to connect this municipal parking lot, which is underutilized right now,
Yeah,
back to Blake Street. So as development happens on Blake Street, this parking lot become more useful, and there'll be an easy way for people to use it and make their way back to Blake Street for what is going to be happening up there in the future.
right, yeah.
All right. So now, oh no. Did I lose my? All right, I'm going to stop share and share again. I think I might have messed up with my sharing. So let's see where that presentation is. Somehow I closed it out. All right, let me open that up again.
I have a quick
Sorry about
question.
that.
Good, Jen.
Lori, on the 5 trees that you're saying on that side, like on the fence side where the railroad-ish is side of that,
Yep.
I have tried to like place signs in that area, like for events last spring, and the railroad people there was like a massive pile of stone or whatever it was. So I would just be a little reluctant to put trees next to the fence, just because that area is kind of messy. And my second comment is I'm just trying to visualize. So where the doggy day den thingy is, so on your rendering there, where the railroad is, like on the left-hand side, is that sidewalk going on the inside of the pole or on the outside of the phone pole or power pole, whatever that thing is called?
Yeah, so the Pier
Right,
Street
like,
is actually gonna be narrowed in order to accommodate the new sidewalk.
so
So
it's going on the inside.
it's, yeah, so the pole isn't gonna have to move.
Okay,
We did that on purpose because it's such a pain in the neck to get National Grid to change a pole location. So
Okay.
we didn't want to have to mess with that.
So when you say the sidewalk is going on the inside, it's going on the outside of the pole and in between the pole and the street.
yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
you are correct. Yep. All right. For some reason, I can't see my presentation here.
So it'll take the
Fine.
street from being like a 12-foot street to a narrower, is that even a word? Oh, that's a word. To a smaller size street. So I guess, although we don't have a crystal ball, like let's say the fire station becomes a restaurant, right? That needs a beer, like a Budweiser truck to come down to deliver, or a food tractor trailer to deliver. Will that narrowness because of the sidewalk impact that lane of
No.
travel?
No, because it's going to be a consistent width. They ended up doing the same thing when they installed the sidewalk on the other side of Pierce Street. So they ended up, because of course we had to put the sidewalk within the limits of the right of way. So they ended up narrowing the width of Pierce Street in order to accommodate the sidewalk on this side. So the width of Pierce Street currently is wider here than it is over here. And
Okay.
of course, on this side of Pierce Street, you have fire trucks going up and down. So if
Right.
fire trucks can make it, then certainly any other vehicle can make it. So this narrower part of Pierce Street is going to be fine to accommodate all sorts of vehicles.
Okay. Okay. I just wasn't sure because it seemed, yeah. All right. So it's on the inside. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and also one of the benefits, so we did submit the preliminary design to CSX, and we have received feedback from CSX. And one of the things that they wanted is they wanted a fence. So they had actually wanted a chain link fence, which isn't very pretty. So we're pushing back on them on the chain link fence so that we can do the split rail fence instead. But the benefit of having the fence is then they won't be able to dump their stuff on municipal property. They'll have to keep it within the confines of the right of way. So I did notice that they just dumped a ton of gravel.
Yes.
So they're going to be spreading that along the railroad tracks. But yeah, and there is also money within the Complete Streets grant to pay for new loam and seeding of that landscape strip that's going to accommodate the street trees, as well as this new area over here that is currently parking lot, but not parking spaces. So this is just going to kind of narrow the width of the driveway entrance. So there's going to be some loam and seed added here, and that's where the new tree is going to be. And the same over here. So that was included within the grant. and is gonna
Okay,
be.
good. Yeah, because they leave a mess downtown, like, oh, that entire area. has
I
been
get
messed.
it.
As you know,
I
we were
get
down
it.
there in April. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Well,
right,
hopefully
good.
with the new trees and the fencing, um, then that will deter that from happening in the future. So I did want to spend a minute talking to you about this CPC application. So I do intend, I have not filed it yet, but I would like to submit a CPC application to cover what's happening on the east side of Blake Street. So that would include this parking lot, the small parking lot, the 2 handicap parking spaces, drainage would be installed, and then 3 rain gardens. So in this location and in this bump out here. Then there would be this vegetated island that would be added that would, right now, this is like a no man's land of pavement. And this parking lot really isn't usable because of that. So by adding this landscaped area, not only will it improve the look of the area, but it will also enable the patrons of the restaurant to park in their own parking lot instead of being a burden on the municipal parking lot. So most people who use that restaurant
Mhm.
park here. But of course, when 4 West Main is filled with other uses, then this parking lot will have to be available for 4 West Main. So it's important that the people who patronize Fatouche
Mm.
use the parking lot on their property instead of on the municipal property. So then there would be a variety of improvements made to this open space area. So there are some trees that would have to come down. There is a small tree that isn't in very good condition at the corner that would be taken out, as well as there are 4 trees in this current island that would have to go. They're also not in great shape, but because of the rain garden, the rain garden requires special soils, and that would the trees would be in the way. All the other trees within this park would be preserved. So that includes the Christmas tree. There are some other beautiful trees that would stay. And then there would be a pergola installed, some nice seating walls. I've got some other images that I can show you of what that'll look like. You may recall we showed you that at the community outreach workshop back in June. So there would be a split rail fence with granite posts installed in between the park and the railroad tracks to discourage jaywalking across the tracks, which is a common problem. So I'm just going to go through some more pictures to show you what that will look like. And then we'll open it up to questions. So once again, the CPC application would focus on this area here. Unfortunately, there isn't any money to redo this large municipal parking lot, so that will not be touched as part of this project. So this is some images of the existing conditions. This giant puddle is a regular occurrence every time it rains. There's no drainage currently within this parking lot. This is the perpendicular parking on Blake. So you can see that the puddle actually extends into the park itself. And because of the lack of drainage, the pavement is just in deplorable shape. So severe alligator cracking. In the wintertime, the potholes open up every single year, and then the DPW has to patch them. Here's a picture of the trees so that you can see that they're not in the best condition. Here are some images of the park. So of course, this is the cabinet that the railroad uses. You can see there is a well-worn path that the kids use to go in between Cumberland Farms and this little park here. So they're regularly crossing over the tracks, and they're like sliding down this hill on the other side of the tracks over by Cumbies. Isn't very safe. We have this lovely totem pole of utilities, which isn't very attractive. The idea with the redesign is to put a utility cabinet over by the railroad's cabinet and then screen them so that they're not so in your face as they are today. Of course, this is a picture showing the wall that the kids sit on. The stones are rarely falling off of the wall. You can see where they are in the walkway. Certainly that is a safety problem. The kids could like pick these up and throw them at each other. I don't know if they do that, but they're regularly displaced. The DPW is constantly picking them up and putting them back together. And then, of course, we have this sign, which unfortunately hasn't worked in a couple of years. I've been told by the Lions Club that they can't get the parts anymore. The vendor that they purchased the sign from has gone out of business, and it doesn't seem likely that this sign will be replaced anytime in the near future. So here are some images. This is the landscape plan. So you can see the 4 trees that I talked about in the War Memorial Park. There's another tree over here. And then this is the common. So it shows where the existing trees are. This is the pergola, 2 benches over here. This is a seating wall. These are the bike racks right here, 3 of them. There's a new tree proposed to be planted here. The flagpole will stay, but they'll be doing like a nice porous paver patio around and a seating wall so that people can kind of sit there and relax. This over here is the utility cabinet that I talked about. There will be 2 LED streetlights added on this side to light up the parking lot as well as the park itself. So that'll make it safer in the evening. And then, as you can see, there is an extensive landscape plan that is proposed. So this should be quite beautiful. It's a combination of shrubs and perennials and decorative grasses. So this area right here should be quite lovely. And then this area with my mouse is the green garden area that I showed you. So this would be municipal parking. This is Blake Street right here, and then the 2 rain gardens. So instead of having, you know, some of those, I think they're fairly ugly. I call them swimming pools, those grass swimming pools that you see in the landscape. So instead of that, they're going to be like garden amenities. So it's just going to look like a garden to the average person. And for those of you who attended town meeting or the community outreach workshops, these slides are going to look familiar. The proposal here, these slides don't show the full landscape plan that I just showed you. So these renderings were done before the landscape plan was finalized a couple of weeks ago. So this area up against the fence will be largely screened. So you're not really going to see the railroad tracks. You're going to see this beautiful landscaping. So, of course, this is a view from the crosswalk as you're heading down from Route 20. So this is Route 20, and this is Blake Street. So you can see the seating wall with the flag. This is the mid-block crossing over by 4 West Main. So trash barrel, there'll be the bike racks in this area, the pergola. This is what it'll look like when you're sitting under the pergola. And just continuing down, so you see the bike racks. And this is the rain garden right here. So there will be some trees that will be added into that space to provide shade for the parking lot. And then there were some decisions made about the lighting. We talked quite a bit about having hanging baskets or banner hardware. And ultimately, the focus group decided just to go with the plain lights. There was interest in doing the hangers.
Mm.
However, that would require either DPW maintenance on a regular basis going with, the water truck to water the hangers. Or we did also discuss putting irrigation into the lights themselves, but we just can't afford it. So the decision was made just to keep it simple and clean and just have the streetlights themselves. And then
Just go back to that for a second, Laura.
sure. This one?
Yeah, so when that came up before the focus group at the last meeting, there was concern about, was that really the scale where the light's going to be that big? It turns out that the light in relation to the person standing next to it isn't going to be that high up in the air. It's going to be lower. So the scale of the lights was reasonable, but there were a couple of questions about how tall that light was going to be compared to the person standing next to it. So the response we got back from the engineers was that was somewhat out of scale, but the light won't extend that far up into the air.
Yeah, the light is only going to be about 14 feet tall. So it's going to be well under the wires. And then these are some images of what the benches are going to look like. So it decided to go with the same trash can as already exists at the common. Decision to go with the white pergola because that's at the common. And the furniture would be similar to what's at the common over by the War Memorial. So I did want to skip to pricing. Sorry. So the idea for the CPA application is to ask for $760,000. So the cost estimate currently is at 756. That includes a 20% contingency. It also includes 3% mobilization, construction oversight services. And so the engineers felt fairly confident that this would be enough to do the trick. So I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point.
The original proposal that went before the town last year was for 2.1 million. So this new proposal here is scale the pricing down by about $800,000. And there'll be no request for any free cash, any impact on the tax rate. Basically, it's a combination of the close to $500,000 of complete streets, a small earmark that we have, and the CPA grant. So if this project would be approved at town meeting, there'd be no impact on the tax rate of the town budget. Go ahead.
Millie?
I am curious, what is the 3% mobilization? I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, so that's what we put in for every single construction project. So essentially, it's the amount of money necessary to get all of the construction equipment to the site. So it's like, for example, if we were to do this as two separate projects, which is actually what we're proposing to do now. We're proposing to go forward with the Pierce Street project this spring. So we'd go out to bid this winter. Originally, I had thought that we would do the west side of Blake Street at the same time as Pierce Street. But when I spoke to the Beta Group about the logistics of doing that, it became problematic because the conduit for the two other streetlights that are proposed for the east side of Blake Street would have to be laid at the same time as the conduit for the west side of Blake Street. So the streetlights are going to be powered in the cabinet that exists in the park. And then the logistics of pulling up the pavement and then not being able to use the street lights until the rest of the project was done didn't make a lot of sense. So the unfortunate part is the project costs are going to be a little bit more expensive than they would otherwise would have been if we were able to go forward with the entire project this year.
Yeah.
So, of course, because of inflation, and now we're going to have to mobilize twice. But at this point, it's unavoidable.
I have two more questions, if that's okay.
Of
course.
You brought up the lights, and you mentioned that the cost of one lights with the hangers was significantly more or different than the cost of the others without the hangers, because, well, number one, you mentioned that DPW would have to maintain the baskets, but what is the cost difference, and would it be wiser to put the ones with the hangers, maybe not use them at this time, but then in the future be able to fund them?
You know, it's not the hangers that's the problem. It's the irrigation that's the problem. So in order to irrigate the lights, it's going to cost about $30,000
A year or
to install the irrigation. And then there's the cost. So the DPW would have to turn off the water every year and then turn it on again. So there's also additional costs having to do with that. So they'd have to hire somebody to do that. So, but more so than the annual cost of the irrigation, it's the initial cost of running irrigation to the streetlights. That's the problem.
Okay, that makes more sense then. And I saw in your schematics that you have the Christmas tree there. And if I understand correctly, the Christmas tree is questionable how much longer that's going to last. Do we have a contingency plan on another Christmas tree?
We sure do.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I had talked with the Ellsworth family about a year ago, they were very concerned about the Christmas tree. And
Yeah.
there's been a lot of debate. It depends on who you talk to about the longevity of the current tree. So, of course, my next topic that I was going to talk to you about is the street tree program
Mhm.
that we just did our first planting at the beginning of this month. We
Oh, good.
planted
Okay, good.
26 trees with volunteer labor, which was fabulous. Trelleborg is a company that has an office. It's a multinational corporation, but they have an office here in Northborough. And so 20 volunteers from Trelleborg came out on October 9th and planted those trees. So they did a fabulous job. And because we had the volunteer labor, we were able to save a lot of money. So all of the supplies that we had to buy and the trees themselves ended up costing a total of around $6,000. So of course I was awarded $26,000. So that
Mm.
means we're able to do another planting in the spring. And we're able to do another planting probably in the fall after that.
Wow.
But that also means that we have money to buy a new Christmas tree for the common. So we've been talking about the specifics of that and locations. So the plan is to plant a tree in the common now. So then when the tree that is in this location is done, we can ultimately shift to the new tree. So it will have had a couple of years of growth. It will be a more significant tree. And of course, there's a lot more space at the common for the Christmas tree lighting than there is at this park. So ultimately, the idea is to transition to the common, but the plan now is to leave the Christmas tree in place now. So we'll just work around it. And then when that tree comes down, we'll decide at that point what we're going to do, whether we're going to plant a different type of tree in its place or what. That's a conversation for another day down the line.
Okay, and last question I have, that's great. I'm happy to hear that actually. Last question I have is you mentioned the fence that is along the railroad. Um, on the other side of the little park area.
Yep.
They mentioned a chain link fence is what they'd like. Who's paying for the fence?
Well, we are paying for the fence, but we don't want to do a chain link fence. So
Okay.
we're going to go back to them and say, this is an existing park. And right now there's no fencing. So we'll meet you halfway. We'll give you fencing, but we want it to be pretty fencing. And that's the split rail fence. So at this site on Blake Street, the idea is to have the split rail fence with the granite posts, just like they are at the Common. But then at the War Memorial Park, we couldn't afford that. So the idea is to just do a traditional split rail fence with wood posts
And
in
that
that
was
location.
that on your diagram? That's
Um,
already included in the cost, I assume.
I don't have a diagram. Let's see. I'm going the wrong direction. In this, it just shows the symbol. So I can blow it up a little bit. Oh boy.
But that's already included in your cost because I actually didn't see that separated out as cost.
Yeah, so the split rail fence with the wooden posts is
Mhm.
already included in the cost for the Complete Streets grant. So the split rail fence with the granite posts here would be included in the CPA application.
Okay,
So that is not
Right.
currently funded.
okay. All right, that's all.
Paul?
I have a question about, stay on this screen if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
There's a rain garden. I guess it's the most north one.
Yep.
If you keep going to your cursor to the right, keep going. Yep, keep going. One more. One more.
There's no rain garden in here.
So
This is
what?
just going to be a vegetated island. So there's a rain garden right here,
Yeah.
a rain garden right here, and a rain garden right here. So you
Eh,
can see the pipe going between them.
Ah,
And that is
okay.
collecting the flow from a catch basin that's going to be installed right here at the
Okay.
corner of this parking lot where they have that big puddling problem.
Um, uh, just to follow up on that. So if you go back to the area that's going to be vegetation,
Yep.
and you mentioned that there's, is there parking right there where that vegetation is?
So currently there is parking. So the existing condition,
Yes.
let me find that picture.
Thank you.
Really remember exactly where it is. So just bear with, oh, here we are.
Yes.
So this is the existing condition. So it's a reconfiguration of the parking. So there is on-street parking here. So there's
Got it.
7 on-street parking spaces. So ultimately, the number of parking spaces on Blake Street is the same, except if you want to count the new parking spaces that we're creating. Of course, we're not striping them because it's not our land, but we're
Mhm.
creating additional parking by enclosing this huge expanse of parking that kind of blends in with the pavement on
Yeah.
Blake Street.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not responsible for maintenance of that area at all?
No, just for this little island here. So the
Okay.
island is within the road right of way. So we'll have
Yeah.
to maintain that. And then this little green space over here, that is a future phase. So because we're not repaving this parking lot,
Hmm.
we're not putting this little island in right here.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a follow-up question on that, on the puddling issue.
Yep.
What exactly is causing that problem? And has an engineer looked at it, and will what we're doing solve it?
Yes. So this puddling problem has the rain gardens have been specifically designed to address that problem. So
Okay.
it's an engineered solution. And the reason why there's the puddling is because there's currently no drainage in Blake Street. And this is the lowest point. So when it rains, all of the water just collects in this area and there's no place for it to go. So it just stays there until it evaporates into the air.
So is that a sediment problem underneath the lot, or was that just existing
Yeah,
in the
it's
time it was designed?
I'll see if I can show you the picture of, yeah, so you can see it dips down.
Yeah, okay.
But really an area of this size should have drainage. I mean, that's why we require it in our regulations.
Got it.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
great. Thank you.
Jen?
Hi, I have another question. Actually, I have a couple. The utility, I wrote notes so I wouldn't forget. On the utility cabinet you're talking about, if you want Cultural Council to have that painted, we will happily take a donation for the artist for that. We could do each one probably for 600. We're trying to get some other ones approved by DOT for the spring, so that is something we would love to help with. The
Yay.
seating wall, yeah,
Yeah.
so it won't look so ugly. And we can run the designs by whoever needs to see them. The seating wall, I just want to make sure, Melican had a half day this week and all the kids were congregated at Cumberland Farms and at Assabet Park because there's nowhere for them to go. Those
Yep.
seating walls that you've mentioned, could we make sure they're like teenage, middle school proof, that they're not real pretty, that they're actually functionable for them at all?
Yes.
I know these metal ones are, but the stone one you're talking about, I just want to make sure we don't have another stone mess like what we have now.
So this is what's proposed. So it's like a brick wall. So I'm sure it's concrete in the middle with a brick facade.
Okay.
And then there's a granite slab on top.
Okay, so the kids can actually, it's really, I just want to make sure it's not inviting. I mean, they're there, so what are you going to do? Like that it's going to be okay to be used by them wear and tear wise, because we know that's what's going to happen. So might as well
Yep.
plan for it. And my last comment is we currently have 2 ugly white lights that are outside 4 West Main, like right near
Yeah.
the drain. So, and you and I have talked about this a million times. I know I get the idea, no flowers or whatever, but what about banners? Marlboro has them, Westboro has them. Everyone else has. Shrewsbury's got them. We would love to have pretty banners that say like "Welcome to Northborough" or something. Can we
Yeah,
please reconsider that?
that was discussed by the focus group, but they decided that they didn't want the banners.
So the focus, so fresh. So the focus group must not go to other towns then, because how do they not see the cool thing? Whatever, it's fine. But
Only 4 right there. Originally, when there were gonna be 10 lights going down the street, it made sense, but there's only gonna be 4 street lights in one little area.
yeah, but then eventually some will wind up on Route 20 and it'll look cute. Whatever, that's fine. I was going to say something else. I'll think of it. Thank you.
Anybody else? I can't see everybody on my screen, so somebody has their hand up, but not their virtual hand. If
Hey Jen, this is John. Didn't the Cultural Council have funds still for the seasonal sign project that got discussed a little bit? I'm out of the loop on it now, but is there any way to combine that?
The seasonal sign. I mean, we don't really have a ton of money. I mean, we just got $1,600 from the state. We kind of usually put that right back into things. I'm trying to remember. Oh, we did talk about seasonal sign. Yes. So that's going someplace else. We don't have enough that in order to put that in the ground over here. It's way more money than what we have planned. But we can look at it again if we get some funds. I'll happily research anything to brighten up that area. Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. I'm sorry, Lori. On the how Paul was talking about that third like little L-shaped, where you're fixing the parking area.
Yep.
Could Gary Phillips and the Garden Club make that pretty and kind of save some of the CPC money by encouraging native plantings anywhere and maybe not use the fence and do like native stuff, native plants?
Well, we definitely need to do the fence because, like I said, the CSX wants the fence.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of whether it's going to be a chain link fence or the nice fence that we want to do, the split rail fence with the granite posts. So that's not an option to not do the fence. Of course, I'm open to whatever in that L Street area. I believe that the Beta Group had planned on landscaping the area. So, I mean, that would
I'm
be
just
one
trying to
last thing that Gary Phillips groups would have to do is if we could use the CPA funds for that. But
Yeah, I'm just thinking,
know.
how can we save some money so that it's more likely to pass whoever
Well,
needs to pass
what
it?
may happen is, of course, sometimes, they prepare an estimate and we end up being short of funds because the real cost is whatever the vendors are willing to do the project for.
Right.
So we may ultimately need to remove aspects of the project if the project ends up being more expensive than the 760,000.
Lori, could I follow up on some of those questions of Jen's?
Sure.
So is the fence along the railroad, is the landscaping plan inside the fence or outside the fence?
Inside, so we're not allowed to alter the railroad right of way.
Okay. And my
So
second
I see if I can find a better picture of the fence. There it is.
okay, so the landscaping will be on the park side.
Correct.
And then will you be incorporating, has Beta Group talked about prioritizing native shrubs and trees?
Absolutely. In fact, I would be happy to email to you if you are a specialist in plants. I can email you the landscape plan and you can tell me what you think of the species that they have chosen.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Two other things. Water supply. Would it be possible to install a spigot so that in the event, there is watering in the future, it's kind of already built in? I know it would probably add a lot to underground piping, must cost a lot to install.
I can talk to the beta group and see how much that would cost.
Because for Applefest, the DPW has allowed us to get water from the building, but it's a little bit of a jury-rigged setup, and it works great because we can offer water at the street fair. And I just imagine there's probably a lot of other things we could use, an outdoor, drinking fountain, that kind of thing, if we had a supply of water on the outside of the building.
I
And
can
then,
ask. I know that Scott was planning, so he has a landscaper maintain the garden beds at the common. So the idea is to hire a professional landscaper to maintain the garden beds here. He thought that it would be a bit above and beyond the capability of the DPW.
and then my last question is about the trees that we installed by the monument, as well as any trees going on here. I noticed on that Pierce and Hudson corner that the trees have the dreaded volcano mulch, which is bad
Mm.
for the bark, and it needs to be pulled off, contact with the bark of the tree, and just kind of made a donut around it. So I just want to make sure we're planting with that in mind.
Uh, yeah, I'm gonna,
I wouldn't want to copy what's there and would like to see
unfortunately,
that.
it's not allowing me to blow up. Every time I try to increase the size of the picture, I end up losing it. So I can't really read. I can tell you this is the common name is the tupelo tree.
Mhm.
But yeah, they have in their detail for the 75% design plan, they have like a planting plan that shows how to plant a tree
Oh, great.
and like where to put the mulch.
Yeah. Okay, that's great because I think we need to manage that, and I just haven't called the DPW to point that out because it's really bad. It can kill the tree if you don't
Yeah.
mulch properly. And that's all I had to ask. Thank you so much, and I'd be happy to look at the species.
Okay. Yes, I will email those to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Anybody else that maybe I can't see on my screen?
Lori, I have a question
Sure.
about the split rail fencing going basically between what will be the Pocket Park there and Cumberland's. And the concern I have is that what is the point of the fencing? Is it to stop people from going to the Pocket Park over to Cumberland Farms? To cross
Yes.
the building? Okay.
So the idea is so of course you can see the heavy landscaping. So the idea is to have pedestrians use the walkways. So to use the sidewalk to cross the railroad tracks and go to Cumbies. instead of the slope, which is dangerous. So the point of the fence is to discourage anybody from just crossing the railroad tracks in that location.
Right.
Now,
And I think we're mostly
will the
talking about.
kids climb the fence? Possibly, but at least we made an effort to make things safer than they are currently.
The concern I have is that there's no requirement on the other side from Cumbies to put a fence up. And so then you have kids that are crossing the fence that could be stuck in a situation. So would it make sense to consider putting either a fence on the other side where they're coming from Cumbies? You know, I mean, at that point, is it making it almost more dangerous for them?
Well,
Because
I
you
would
wanna-
think that they may make that mistake once and never make the mistake again. They should be able to see the heavy landscaping and the fence before they cross. So, I
So it's
mean,
pretty
ideally,
heavy
what
then.
they'll do is they'll just walk to the sidewalk and use the sidewalk to cross the tracks. We don't really have, I mean, we don't own that land. So not only can we not afford to put a fence there, but we don't own the land, so we don't really have the right to put a fence there.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
just
we could
thinking.
also, it just occurred to me, we could probably, as this project completes, work through the school committee to do some publication, some publicity and publication in the schools and kind of explain what's going on and how the park is going to be much more usable and nice for them. And, you know, we set it up this way, and the way to get to the park is to follow the sidewalks and stuff like that. So maybe we can do some education at the proper time in the schools too. Not to say that that's an end all and be all, but at least to
Okay.
provide some information in advance to the kids about what's going on and what we'd like to see happen.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I just a comment. This is Fran. So I'm up there almost as often as the middle schoolers during the day when I'm out for my walk, and then I see them on Tuesday evenings when I go over to Sawyer's to bowl. And I can tell you, I really think yes. I mean, I've actually tried going down the slope, and if you catch yourself having to run down it, you end up on your bum. But I actually think the fence just makes it more of a park as well. And I don't think that I think they will see it as a natural deterrent to crossing the tracks because it makes it more like a park. It encloses the area but doesn't, chain link it or, it closed. So it's really not a far walk around the sidewalk into the Cumberland parking lot. So I think it really just does um, complete the concept of a park if we have a little bit of a fence between it and the railroad tracks, which we can't do anything about how ugly they are, and then whatever plantings we can do to encourage some natural screening. I think that it will really make a difference. And they're a good group of kids too. I see them often. They're really not destructive. I think just by the nature of the volume and the activities, there can be destruction, but I don't see them as destructive kids at all.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I just get concerned that kids are going to be going back and forth and that they're going to get coming up from Cumbies and they're going to get stuck because they can't quite get across and something's going to happen. But, just I hope that this does deter them from cutting back and forth. I'm not sure it will.
Paul?
Just one quick comment. We kind of brushed over pretty quickly, but losing the marquee signage.
Hmm.
In person, when I moved to Northborough in 2001, I found it very valuable as a new person because I knew when signups were happening, I knew when public things were happening, and it certainly looked a lot better than some of the banners that we have around town. And I realized that that was a major expense, but I was wondering if the beta group or the focus group talked to anyone else to incorporate that into the plan, or is that something in the future that we would look at the common potentially? And there's all kinds of variety of boards out there, by the way. They don't all have to look like that. Especially in my job, I see a lot of different boards, and they're very classy. They're very clean. You can even make them into, like, town colors, and I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can do that fits with the historical and things that are put on buildings. I mean, there's 3 or 4 of them I can think of on Causeway Street and they've got all kinds of West End restrictions and North End restrictions in Boston with respect to signage.
Hmm.
So I just was wondering if we looked at that at all. And if not, that's okay. I just love that thing. I find it missing, for 2 years. And before we kick the can down the road, I was just wondering, if we had looked at that.
I know so I did reach out to the Lions Club about the sign, and the gentleman that I spoke to said he's the one who told me about the parts issue, and I didn't he said, well, maybe we should talk about it more, and I haven't followed up with him, so I can follow up with him. I know the fire station wanted to put an electronic message center in front of the new fire station, and they actually went to the ZBA because, believe it or not, electronic message centers are not allowed in the downtown. And so they went to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a variance to allow an electronic message center there, and the ZBA turned them down. So there's that problem, is that they're not allowed in the downtown. And of course, if it's abandoned for 2 years, then it loses its grandfathering status. And I don't believe it's worked for at least 2 years, maybe longer than that.
Apparently, that's a very short-sighted view to turn down the fire department.
I know they were very
That's just my personal
disappointed.
opinion.
Yeah.
For something that is a community announcement type of thing. It's not a solicitation for business. But thank you for the background on that. I appreciate that.
I'm actually on the planning board and I was part of it, but what it came down to is we wanted to allow electronic signs for municipal purpose, which I still think we could. But town council said if you allow it for one, you allow it for all.
Yeah.
So if we said you can do a municipal sign for the fire station, then any business downtown can do it, which meant we really were trying to get away from having a Vegas strip in Northborough downtown. But I think that if we could allow one, either here or somewhere else, that would be great. I'm not sure how we could do that, but that was the problem. That's what happened. He said, if you allow one, you have to allow everybody, and that would turn into, it wouldn't be like a small downtown anymore if you had light up signs everywhere.
Yep.
No, I get that. Thank you for the clarification, Amy. I appreciate that. I'm not looking at something that would be a marquee. I still think that might be an interpretation of one town council as well. Not necessarily, maybe the current one or not. And you could also, I could point to 400 or 500 of those in Boston that are with the charm of the North End. And you walk down Hanover Street, I bet you'll you can pick out any one of those, what they look like, that have been there for 60 years. So
Right.
It's like
anyway,
Hudson.
And actually,
Very
it's,
bothered.
I
Hudson
think
downtown.
we're getting slightly off
Yeah.
off
yeah,
topic,
no,
but it is a
again,
little bit
I'm
it is a little bit more complex than that, because I actually was on the zoning board and I was in favor of the fire station getting it the variance. But I mean, it's just more complicated than that. There's a difference between allowing them by right and allowing them through a variance, which we could
Okay.
have done. One of the justifications for those who voted against it was we already have one, which was the Lions Club, which unfortunately now is not working.
Thank you, Fran.
I have
All
a
right.
question on that quickly. Does anybody know when that Lions Club actually stopped working? So if there were to be a question on that, you know, is it grandfathered?
So if a use has been abandoned for 2 or more years, then it loses its grandfathering status. So it hasn't worked for a real long time, to my knowledge. It definitely a year, possibly 2 years, I'm not sure.
Right, but if they were to just put signs up on it, I'm just trying to figure out what the options are. Yeah, it's fine.
It was probably still on last year, but it wasn't working. So it's all
That's-
interpretation, it was still on, so
That's the
it might
question.
count.
It might
Even though
be.
it was
I
gibberish.
think it counts. It was gibberish.
I would
Well,
think with all the companies that are out there that someone knows how to fix that. It's just finding the right person or connecting the right company parts or whatever. If you want to pass on my name to help them or join the committee to try to fix that, I'd be happy to help whoever needs help with that.
Is it
My
even possible?
understanding that they can't find the parts.
I didn't think it was possible to fix, so it would be a whole new sign, which then would probably not allow the variance.
Or you could probably leave the structure. I don't know if they could just put a new panel in. Like it's not the same exact panel with a part, but a new panel in the structure area.
Was that put up by Andy?
Andy
I don't
Clark.
It
know.
was put up by Andy Clark because he had actually mentioned it at the CPC meeting that he had done the research, and he's the one who said that they went out of business and the parts aren't available.
Right, that's what I thought.
I could reach out to Andy again and see if he has an idea for it. If one was to fix it, how would you
Or
approach it, and then go to the people that own it, and maybe a little more effort to see what it would take to fix it. I
be
don't mind
curious,
helping with
yeah.
that.
You know,
It's a
why don't
great
we,
sign.
why don't you do that, John? I think we need to continue to move on and make sure there are no other questions about the plan, and then Lori's got a proposal for a support letter from our committee that we need to review next. So
Mhm.
let's
I had
leave
one
it in John's
question.
hands to talk to Andy and come back with a recommendation.
Can do.
Okay, thanks, John.
I just had a question, and my question might be more for John. Is, we don't know what we're doing with 4 West Main Street. If 4 West Main Street sold and they want the parking in this little pocket park to be part of the building, do they have to pay back that CPC money, or at least some of it?
Mm.
Yeah, I believe so.
Right.
Wouldn't it
If
be
you're-
the same as with the historic preservation restriction, John? In which case, all of the proceeds from the sale would have to go to the CPC.
Yeah, it's a little more complicated question. I guess you're asking in the theoretical situation that this project goes forward, the park is built as Lori's design shows, and then someone occupying or buying 4 West Main wants to change it.
No, well, they want the parking lot. Like, say they want those 9 spaces to be part of their building, and that's part of their negotiation that, you know, we don't
Part
want a
of the
building
building.
without parking.
Well, my personal opinion is I don't see the plan restricting the parking in any significant way that it would affect the business's ability to operate there. Just my opinion to get it out there. I really think too much is being made about that. But if your question is after this was all implemented and then somebody at 4 West Main wanted to change it or occupy parking in places where the park is, that would be just a new construction on that person's account. It's not the same as buying a building and then giving it back, I guess. So I really can't answer the question clearly, but I think what you're getting at is a concern that's been raised as to whether starting this now in any way affects the flexibility of the town to promote 4 West Main. I personally just don't see it. I see it the opposite way. A couple of other people spoke to the fact that, we're in effect enhancing the commercial viability of the area, which is an enhancement to somebody if they were to buy the building for, commercial and joint and multiple use. And it's hard for me to see how making the area nicer and more frequently occupied and possibly encouraging other economic vitality, how that wouldn't be a plus for anything with regard to 4 West Main. But
I guess
there will be
I
some
don't
who
know what
debate
the
that.
other people asked, but I was just wondering if they wanted to buy the parking. If they said, okay, we're gonna buy 4 West Main Street, but we want those 11 parking spaces. I don't know what the other people have asked you, but
You talk about the
Oh,
ones right next to it?
they could negotiate that they're gonna put up signs saying, I mean, right now it's pretty much on-street parking, so, but I suppose the town could allow them to put up signs saying, the parking is for 4 West Main Street only. I think one of the
Have to vote,
concerns that
yeah.
was mentioned is that they would just demolish the entire park and make it into a parking lot. I mean, it's so small that I don't know how many parking spaces you would get. I mean, it's the configuration, it's long and thin. So I'm not sure what the benefit would be, but I think that that might have been what the selectman was getting at on Monday.
My sense of this is that coming back to this, that a significant portion of the people in town would like to see the downtown beautified and improved. This is a step in that direction. In fact, this is a fairly important step in terms of how visible and in the center of town this particular park exists. I think that we should bring forward at town meeting this proposal to use community preservation funds to do this particular enhancement to this space. If on the floor of town meeting debate begins about it's too soon to do it, we need to wait till we see what happens with 4 West Main, if in fact that's where people are leaning and they hesitate to spend the money now to do this work, then so be it. But I think it's our responsibility to bring forward this proposal to the town now in a way where it's being financed, where there's no impact on the town budget, nor is any impact on the tax rate, and present the fact that, if in fact the town is really interested in just trying to make major steps to improve the downtown, this is a step in that direction, and we'll have that discussion on the floor of town meeting. I would hope that on the floor of town meeting, those residents that have expressed the desire to improve the downtown would stand up for this enhancement. So that'd be kind of my, at this point, answer. And we'll just see, there'll be public hearings held by the CPC to discuss this proposal. It'll be interesting to see if anybody turns out either in support or opposition. We'll get a kind of a reading at that point. But, I think for all that we have done as a committee to move downtown revitalization forward, I think it's incumbent on us to present this proposal to the town, give them the option to see if they'd like to use community preservation funds to do it.
Rick, the other thing that we should consider is that by next year's town meeting, we could have an RFP or RFQ, whatever it is, on 4 West Main and actually know what the potential buyer is interested in doing, which may solidify this as a good idea or maybe just not. I mean, you have to remember that 4 West Main is a replica of a historical building. It's not a historical building. They might, I mean, we don't even know whether it's going to be saved. So we shouldn't be concerned about what's going to happen with 4 West Main. We might actually know before we get to town meeting in April.
I'm sure it's likely, but it's possible.
So,
Any other questions about the design?
yeah, I actually just kind of on that point, this design is on town-owned property, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
So the 4 West Main Street, which is currently town-owned, but may be up for release.
Yeah.
The impact of that would be based on this current design, correct?
Well, this is not maybe you can repeat your question. I'm not
I'm
quite
not
sure
sure
I
what you're
really
getting. I'm not sure what you're
understand it.
getting at.
So what I'm getting at, I guess, is that if somebody were to come along and say, hey, I'm going to buy 4 West Main, but I don't like your design, I want to change it. Does that really have an impact on what we as a town decide to do with this?
I don't think
It's a
so. I
separate
mean,
parcel. It's a separate parcel.
I thought so.
yeah, it doesn't go necessarily with 4 West Main.
I didn't think so. So I'm not sure why 4 West Main is coming into the concern here.
I think partly there could be some concern that the prospective buyer may have some interest in this. I think more of it is a general reluctance to move forward with this project and a way to put up an objection to prevent things from happening. It could well be that people may be opposed to spending any money on this property at all for any reason. But as opposed to saying that, basically just saying, you know, let's wait till we see what happens on 4 West Main and just defer any decision making. So I'm not sure exactly what's behind all of that. But once again, I think it's our responsibility to move this proposal forward and see where it takes us.
Okay. I thought I was missing something, but I'm not.
I don't think
Yes.
so.
I just asked about the parking because that's where the people that go to the dentist there seem to park. So I was just curious. I don't know. I didn't watch the select board meeting Monday night, so I don't know what questions were asked. I was just curious if they sell 4 West Main Street, if they sell the parking that goes with it, if some of the money went back to CPC, kind of like White Cliffs. I guess that was my question, is more, does some of the money go back to the town if we sell those parking spaces? And I guess maybe it would if it did for White Cliffs, if it does.
I
The
guess
Maybe,
CPC isn't
I
paying
mean, I
for
think
parking spaces, though.
Yeah.
The CPC is paying for the pocket park.
Yeah,
They're not paying for
thank
parking
you.
spaces.
Thank you,
Right.
Fran.
well, they are paying for the renovation of that space.
Correct, but
Those-
it's not like the,
C-
it's not,
CPC
CPC
funds
is
are
not
going to be
buying the
used to
parking space.
renovate those 9 spaces and put in the drainage.
Correct, but we're not buying them, we're not taking them away. It's, the
Right.
parking is still there for the same patrons that are there today. I just don't, yeah.
But
Yeah.
the justification is that although the parking isn't a recreation use in and of itself, those spaces are close enough to the park that they can be determined to be support spaces for the park. Even if they don't happen to be used that way on an ongoing basis, you can make the case that because of the proximity of those 9 spaces to the park, they're part of the recreation use.
Yeah,
But the park is not preventing anyone from parking there to go inside 4 West Main or
right.
go in Sawyer's or anything else,
Okay.
right?
But like we couldn't use community preservation money to renovate the main parking lot next
No.
to it. But these spaces
Yeah.
have to be located in a place you can make the case that
I
they go
agree.
with the park.
Okay. I
Yeah,
just
so
wanted to
then
make
they
sure I
really
understood
couldn't
that.
be sold because they go with the park.
Well, I mean, that's a justification for using community preservation money. It'll still be municipal land. And if the
Yep.
municipality decides that they want to sell some of that land as part of this 4 West Main deal, then the question's going to be asked. If
That's
community
separate.
preservation money was used to restore that property, what's the responsibility of the buyer to restore that money? That would have to go to town council at the time that that question came up.
Great.
Yeah, I don't think it applies because we're not acquiring new real property in this project. We're not transferring ownership of any property. I believe that would be the stipulation. So I don't think it's a factor, Amy.
Yeah, all right, I was just curious because I know,
I understand.
people are trying to save money. So if we did sell the parking lot, I was thinking some of the money would come back.
Yeah, no, I don't think it applies in this case.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions about the design and the project itself? All right, Lori, when you go forward with your proposal to have our committee endorse it to the CPC?
Mhm.
That's great. I emailed to you folks the draft support letter. Did anybody want to make any changes to the letter?
I had one question. It seems like, if I can find my copy of the letter here. It seems like the third bullet
Hmm.
discussing the quality and diversity of wildlife habitat, preventing habitat fragmentation, I think it's kind of a stretch. This particular property is pretty fragmented from any wildlife corridor already. So although that's in there, I think the other bullets make sense, but I'm not sure the bullet on contributing to quality and diversity of wildlife habitat, makes
I'd
sense
agree with that.
as a reason why this should be included in the letter. I'm okay with the letter, just not that one bullet.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you can take that out.
I would
Wait, where is
I would
that?
disagree because I think that the way that Gary Phillips is creating habitat in marginal spaces is kind of creating a corridor for flying, insects and butterflies and other insects. So as long as there are patches here, there, and everywhere, you can have, you can bring back viable populations of some of these endangered insect species. So I kind of like the idea. Like I like that there's native plants going in, and that, as Jen suggested, Gary could take another area within this parcel and make it into another bed. So I kind of like that point being included in the letter.
Well, I didn't see it through those eyes. I mean, the letter's going to the CPC. I just didn't want the CPC to roll their eyes when they saw that. But I mean, from that perspective, I suppose there is some
Yeah,
merit.
I don't think it affects the letter in any negative way. So let's just leave it in.
Well, thank you for sort of enlightening our view, Gene, and
I love that.
what it means for the wildlife habitat. I wasn't thinking about butterflies and bees, but I suppose you're right. I was thinking about deer and moose and bobcats, and haven't seen one of those cross Route 20 in quite a while.
Hmm.
Okay.
Didn't you see the eagle?
Oh,
Didn't you see the picture of the eagle right on Route 20 on the Marlboro line the other morning? A
I saw
bald
that
eagle.
picture, yeah.
you mentioned a bobcat. There was one right on the backside of my property earlier today.
I mean, on St.
Wow.
St.
I'm
Did you
Louis?
get a
not
picture?
that far. I'm a mile maybe from Route 20.
Did you get a picture, Millie?
We sure did. Video.
Oh,
Actually in my shed.
oh my goodness. Can
Yeah.
you send it to me? I'd love to see that.
Sure can.
I'll add it to my collection of
Bobcat sightings.
well,
Yeah.
especially, exotic wildlife in Northborough. I think it's fun to kind
Yeah.
of showcase that.
There it was. Yeah.
The bear in Indian Meadow.
Any
that
other,
someone got on one of their cameras.
are there any other comments about the letter itself? Hearing none. I'd entertain a motion that the committee agrees to send this letter to the CPC endorsing the project. Is there such a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the letter of endorsement of the Blake Street project that Lori has drafted for our consideration to be
Is there-
submitted to the CPC with the application.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
Second.
Is there any discussion at this point? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Let me go back and get my cheat sheet here so I don't forget anybody. Amy Paretsky,
Aye.
Millie Milton,
Aye.
Leslie Harrison's not here, Paul Cacciatore,
Aye.
Fran Baxter,
Aye.
Gene Kennedy,
Aye.
Gene Cahill,
Aye.
Rick Leaf votes aye, John Campbell,
Aye.
Jen Tolman.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Go ahead and attach the letter to the app or whatever you're going to do there.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is an update on street trees.
Well, I pretty much already gave you the update.
Yes, you did.
So, we do have some more money, like I said, so we will be doing a springtime planting. I did have my assistant write up a little web page on the planning department page where people can download the application and send that in to me. So if any of you live in the center and want a street tree, or you can tell your friends, or Millie, if you own property, but you don't necessarily live there and you want a street tree, happy to give you a free tree. So please, Millie, do you want me to send you the application form?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right.
Yeah.
Awesome. And, right now, there have been a couple of people who have requested 2 trees. So they were in the fall planting. So I told them that I will set their application aside, and it all depends on how many people want a tree. So first time around, you get 1 tree. But per site, if you have multiple sites, you can get a tree for every site. But if there isn't a huge demand, then I'd be happy to give you 2 trees. So I just want to see about the demand first before I commit to that.
Is there more information about the types of trees, or?
I will happily give you the form with the
Perfect.
types of trees listed.
And is there a way to send thank you notes to the people who are doing this work?
Well, yes, if you want to send me something, then
Mhm.
I'd be happy to send it along to the volunteer coordinator who helped in October. I'm not sure if they're going to be the volunteers doing the planting again in the spring. Chances are I'll have different volunteers at that time. But if anybody is interested in volunteering, then I can also add you to the volunteer list. So Abby and I ended up planting a tree this year. There was one that the wrong tree ended up in the wrong spot. So it didn't end up making the volunteer time frame. So Abby and I planted the tree ourselves. Actually, it was gargantuan. It was supposed to be 1.5-inch caliber, and it ended up being like 3-inch caliber. So we
Whoa.
dug this gigantic hole, and then we couldn't budge the tree, not even a centimeter. So then the DPW tractor had to come pick up the tree and put it in the hole for us. But
Hysterical.
that family got an absolutely gorgeous dogwood tree, very large.
Nice. And I was thinking more as a group from MPIC or something that a thank you note, basically.
Oh, yeah, that
Yeah,
would be
That's a
awesome.
that's a great idea, Emily.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really like that.
Lori, is there a place where we can find out where the trees were planted and kind of route them on as we drive past?
Yeah, I can send you the list.
Yeah,
So,
that'd be great fun to see. Yeah.
yeah. So there were two properties that received 2 trees this year in the fall. It was the Housing Authority. I figured there were so many units there that they deserved 2 trees.
Sure.
And then the other one was the police station.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there's a way to get contact information out, I would be happy to spearhead a thank you note or something that basically says, this is actually a great community project and greatly appreciated.
I don't have the names of any of the other volunteers, just the volunteer coordinator.
And they could probably give you those names or
They could pass it on.
pass it on. Yeah,
Yeah, I think if maybe you guys want to do a letter, I could just send it to them and then they can share it with everybody who volunteered.
sure. Okay.
Another acknowledgement could be to put a little metal tag or something on the tree.
Yep, we could do that. We did have the community advocate do a article.
Oh,
So I haven't seen whether it's appeared in the newspaper yet, but the reporter got some photos and I know went around and interviewed some of the volunteers and so keep an eye out for that article.
yeah, no, I didn't see that. So I just think it'd be nice to send that company a thank you note and their volunteers and greatly let them know that we appreciate the effort.
Yes, and they are also on my new street tree page. So I included a photo that shows all the volunteers on the morning of,
Nice.
and then a couple photos of the volunteers planting trees.
All right, great.
So actually, Abby and I are in one of the pictures, so you can see the absolutely gigantic tree we planted.
Oh, great.
So
Awesome.
it was
Thank
fun.
you. Thank you.
Any other questions for Lori about this? Great job that's being done here. Really starts to move us in the right direction. Small things like this make a big difference.
I agree. 1000%.
Okay. We don't really have a whole lot of time here to get into this master plan discussion. I'll just give you a brief update on what I've got in mind here, how I'd like to do it. Gene Kennedy sent me an email a week or so ago, basically said it's been 5 years since the master plan was completed. This is probably a good time to produce a status report to the town as to where we stand on all of this, or at least to send something to the select board with kind of an update.
Mm.
So I started to go through the plan, and what's kind of interesting is that when you read the matrix, there's a lot of either completed or in progress. There are some, not yet initiated. But I think we need to do more than just say, there was this many recommendations, and this is kind of the mathematical status of where it stands. I think we need to really put some thought and words around where things go. Like, for example, the reason I want to start with economic development, because I think it's very relevant to what's going on. In the economic development, the first major goal had to do with the redevelopment and enhancement of the downtown. And the tasks in there basically said the town ought to form a committee, and the committee ought to work towards putting a plan together, and then implementation should begin. And in effect, what's happened was we decided as an MPIC it didn't make sense to spin off a separate committee, so we decided to charge ourselves with moving the downtown revitalization forward. We got the select board to agree to fund a downtown revitalization plan, which was complete, which is what the master plan said we should do. And the next step was to do something. And we are stalled at doing something. So when you look at the status of the recommendations, it looks a little bit cheerier than I think where we really are. And the next set of economic development, the next major goal had to do with an economic development coordinator or a committee, and the town sort of getting out ahead of economic development, dealing with business owners, making proposals, sort of having a plan as to how this is going to work. And not a whole lot has really happened there, even though a number of the individual recommendations say kind of underway,
Yeah.
with kind of an update. So what I'd like to do is, starting with economic development, just have a discussion around where are we really, and what kind of words do we want to put around our update on that section before we then say, and this is where each individual recommendation stands. And I think we need to do that with each major section. So
Mhm.
had the time allowed tonight, I wanted to open up that discussion on economic development, but we're not going to really have time to do that tonight. I think what we can do is, at each upcoming meeting, knock off one or two of the major sections of the master plan with what we think our response ought to be, and eventually build this kind of report or memo or something that'll be our update on where we stand with the plan and what we think needs to happen. What I'd like to do is manage the agenda now for the December meeting. There's probably going to not be a lot of updates on Blake Street and Pierce Street at this point. Where we stand now is Lori's going to file an application with the CPC, and not a whole lot more is going to happen. So we should have a fairly open agenda for December. What I'd like to ask you guys to do is to, if you haven't already, take a look at the economic development portion of the plan and the matrix, and let's also see if we can get to the land use part of the plan and the recommendations, and see if we can cover those two areas at our December meeting. We can use it sort of as a way to sort of learn how we want to do this and start to develop what this kind of response is going to be. And I'm hoping, because I think some of these economic development things might be good to communicate back to the Board of Selectmen before they go too much further down the road in deciding what to do with 4 West Main Street. If in fact we can come up with a good approach to what we want to say about economic development, we might actually want to communicate back to the select board before we have the entire status update for the entire plan complete, and we could discuss that also at the next meeting. Go ahead, Millie.
So I have a question on that because as a representative of the Historic District Committee, I am following what is in that plan as well.
Yeah.
So there have been updates to that plan that I actually realized that I need to update again
Yeah.
as to where we are. So I guess my question would be, myself as the representative, am I focusing on the economic development aspect of this, or am I focusing on the historic district? Because that's where I've been focusing.
Yeah, I think for being a committee member, if there are updates you need to make to the matrix to make it
Yeah.
current and proper, you should make those updates.
Okay.
As far as being a committee member, we should focus as a committee section by section all together. What I may, depending how our discussion goes, we may ask you when we come to the historic part of the plan for you to sort of present your ideas about where you think we really are and what our update ought to be, and you can lead that part of the discussion.
Okay.
We don't really have an economic development representative on the committee.
Right.
So I kind of decided to sort of take the lead and be that kind of person. I'm thinking that we do housing, I would do that. I was thinking, Amy, if we're going to discuss economic development and land use at the next meeting, you should make sure that all the land use recommendations are current. And then, we might look to you to sort of give your impression as to where you think we stand vis-a-vis the plan on land use. And we can
Mhm.
sort of have you lead that part of the discussion. We'll just have to see, kind of where we go. And I think
I
the
went through them
discussion-
the other night and I think Lori sent them out to everybody.
Right,
I
okay,
actually did some updates the other night.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did. I didn't do those for historic district. I'm sorry.
okay.
Rick,
I
I
think-
think
so I
another
think-
thing,
I think this
another
process
thing
will
that would be
accomplish two.
helpful. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead, Fran.
That I was just gonna say another thing that would be helpful for both economic development. I know the planning board is at the part of their schedule of get new zone law warrant articles for next year and
Yep.
how they would impact economic development, because some of them are looking at changing some of our zoning, which is an important part of economic development.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
What I
Okay.
was gonna say tonight is I did read down all of the matrix, and I do think the next step would be an economic development committee
Mhm.
that could look at some of the things. That's something that's always been discussed, and it's been discussed with the select board as one of the next committees to be, in my opinion, we're done with the downtown revitalization once this letter goes off and it goes to town meeting. Like, I think we can still keep going on with it, but I think we've hit the major milestones. So now if Rick's moving into economic development, maybe we start by,
That's a big
and
piece.
I talked to Lori about it today, and maybe Steph would be the staff person that would be with this economic development committee.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to continually move our focus away from individual projects
Yeah.
and the plan itself. And this 5-year anniversary of the completion of the plan, as Jean mentioned, I think is just a good opportunity to sort of take a step back and sort of perform the function of analyzing the plan and reporting on it, and then see kind of where that leads us, kind of thing.
I
Right.
know
I
what you're
think that
trying
we
to,
would be the committee.
Yeah, go ahead, Jean.
I was just going to say, I know what you're trying to do in terms of reviewing each component of the master plan. But if we do that with the schedule that we have, which is every 2 months, the 5-year update will be a 6-year update because we won't be able to complete it until sometime next year. A status report, by the same token, a status report can be issued anytime. There's nothing magical about 5 other than the fact that it has been 5 years. And I agree that just taking the matrix and passing it on as is would be insufficient. But we could use the status report as an opportunity to, one, highlight the major events that have been completed, and also highlight the things that are important that have not been completed, such as the Economic Development Committee that Amy is talking about, and use the status report as an opportunity to sort of remind certain boards and commissions that there are important activities that they need to consider. So that would be painting a different schedule there. We could draft up a status report. We could clean up the matrix. We could review it in December. We could vote on it and then just distribute it. And then continue the way you were talking in terms of focusing on the various objectives and the components in a sequence to discuss and then move forward on certain of those objectives. So that's just a different approach to what we're talking about.
Yeah, I guess an approach we could take, it's all going to be dependent on what each one of us does between now and the December meeting. So if in fact different people have an interest in certain parts of the plan and they want to get into in some level of detail, reviewing the plan itself and the recommendations and where they stand, and make suggestions at the December meeting as to here's some important things I think the status report ought to get to, either in terms of major accomplishments or major things that need to be done. We can sort of kick that around and see if out of the December meeting we could come up with a status report. My sense is that I think it's going to take 2 meetings to do it the way I proposed. If we do economic development and land use at the December meeting, we could probably pick up the other 3 at the February meeting and be done with it. So I don't see this dragging on, every 2 months, one area. I think that the 2 biggest areas are economic development and land use in terms of the number of recommendations and sort of the breadth they have across the town. The other 3 are important, a little bit smaller in scope. So we can discuss this, I'll leave it up to you guys. We'll have the floor open in December meeting. If people have ideas about things outside of economic development and land use that you've seen in the plan, you think it's important to bring forward in December, we can sort of revise how we approach the December meeting. But what I'd like to do is restrict the agenda in December mainly to just this kind of discussion. And after 2 hours, we'll see, kind of where we end up. If we end up at a point we've got something good to send, we'll send it. If not, we can finish it up at the February meeting.
Okay.
Okay. So once again, the homework assignment between now and December meeting is to really, Lori sent us the link to where the plan is. You can read the plan to your heart's content, then take a look at the matrix, see what the recommendations say. But like I said, I think the matrix is a little misleading. I think it paints somewhat a rosier picture of where we are compared to where we really are. And I think it's especially true in economic development. So that's kind of why I focused on that one.
Rick, I have a question. Would we
Sure.
want to, regarding economic development, create an inventory of changes that have occurred in 5 years? That kind of, it may or may not have been as a result of what our committee has prompted town committees to do, but are just kind of the economic, improvements that our town is making that I think, the subtle changes to downtown are starting to kind of seed better looking and rehabbed storefronts and that kind of thing. And I don't know, Lori, if there is such a inventory in the town or if that's something that would pertain or not to kind of what we're cataloging at this time.
I know in the matrix, I tried to identify, of course, I've only been here for almost 4 years. So I identified those things that I was aware of, and I know Amy added to my list. So I suppose that's probably the closest thing to what you're talking about of there are some improvements that are happening that are initiated by private property owners that really aren't something that this committee or any other committee had anything to do with. It was just that the property owners decided to fix up their properties, or new owners came in, or whatever. So certainly there are decisions of the planning board and the ZBA that impact various properties, various businesses in town. But yeah, everything isn't like compiled into a single list.
Go
And
one by one.
Go ahead, Amy.
Oh, you'd have to go one by one. One thing I was thinking of that we did last year is we opened up down by Wegmans area. We opened that up to allow all commercial uses over there. So now like Kimball Sand, for 8 years now, when they go forward with a new project, they can either use an industrial use or a commercial use. And in my mind, for economic development, I think that opens up their opportunities to do a lot of different things. So, I mean, that came to my mind on something we've done recently.
Yeah, I think when we go through the land use, it'll become apparent that there's been some significant zoning changes made to encourage, that kind of economic development, which the plan, the original master plan advised that we do, and it'll be good to be able to report that, that zoning has happened. But the plan really didn't talk about independent private landowners doing things. It really focused that the town should get out ahead of this and lead what's going to happen. And I think a big thing that we need to bring out is that there's been very little progress in terms of the town getting out in front, of a lot of this stuff, except I think the land use will show that from a zoning perspective, the planning board has been thinking about changing the zoning to let these things happen, given the fact the town would get out in front of it and start to work with landowners and business owners and other people to try and encourage this to happen, that the zoning wouldn't stop them. But the town really hasn't gotten out ahead of that. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here a little bit.
I think White Cliffs too. will bring in some economic development. I think that's super exciting. And I think there are a lot of things going on right now that are pretty exciting. As far as economic development, I do think there have been a lot of changes in the last year. Even the TIFs that the Board of Selectmen are talking about, that companies are asking for. So I feel like the town is trying different methods.
I think so, but it's kind of one-offs here and there kind of thing, but I agree with you. And
Yep.
those can be reported as, things that are happening successfully, and the plan does mention that also. All right, well, it's almost 9 o'clock here. We do need to spend a minute on the minute. So, like I said, do some homework and let's make the focus of December, at least economic development and land use. But if people do have other suggestions and ideas we want to bring forward in December, we'll have time to talk about those. So the last item on the agenda is the minutes. They were distributed to us in advance of the meeting. Does anybody have any changes or comments on the minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
So moved.
Is there a second for that?
Second,
Okay, once again, we'll take a quick roll call vote here. Amy Pretsky,
Abstain, I wasn't here.
Millie Milton,
Yes, approved.
Paul Cacciatore, I guess you weren't here either, so you'll have to wait till the next
Abstain,
minutes
yep.
come out. Yep, okay. Fran Baxter,
yeah,
Gene Kennedy,
Aye.
Gene Cahill,
Abstain.
Rick Leaf says aye, John Campbell,
Can't hear you, John.
Aye.
and Jen Tolman.
Aye.
All right. Well, I think we accomplished a lot in this meeting, sort of getting behind what's going on down on Blake Street and Pierce Street. We'll see what happens next, kind of thing. And we'll sort of shift our focus in December to kind of talk about the plan itself and how we want to start to give a
Right.
status report on the plan. With that, thanks everybody for coming tonight. Appreciate it. And we'll see you
Thank
in
you.
December.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Good
Bye.
meeting.
motion to adjourn,
Oh, sorry.
Move.
Second.
motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. I'll make a management decision.
There you go, good night.
Good
Night,
night.
everybody.
Thank you.
Night.
Night.